No breaks.
We're going straight through.
Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting for Monday, January 13th. Madam Secretary, would you take roll and help us determine a quorum, please?
Director Cooney?
Here.
DeBeat?
Here.
Trabaugh?
Here.
Finn?
Here.
Carter?
Here.
Morgan?
Here.
Sure.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Would you all please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all of our visitors this evening, as well as our media representatives. We appreciate you joining us. Next on our agenda is our Student Council update.
Hi, I'm Veda Matos, and we ended 2019 very successfully with Happiness Week. We had students decorate teachers' doors, and that was very successful. And we gave cookies every day and hot chocolate, and we had dog day, and that went really well. We have already started this semester off with Senior Survivor, so 9 teams this year will fundraise over the next 6 weeks to try to be one of the 5 finalists, and it will begin on March 2nd through the 6th. And our goal this year is to raise $10,000. And our annual Winter Thaw Dance is scheduled for May 15th at the high school. And some of our proceeds will go to the Iowa Dance Marathon, and the rest will be for prom. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Veda before she sneaks away? It's okay.
Who won the door decorating contest?
We didn't have a competition.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Did you decorate a door, Veda?
Yes.
So it probably would have been your door that would have won, though, right?
Probably.
Well, thank you for coming and thank you for the report. You all, you and your student body always do an amazing job with fundraising and activities that you're doing, and we appreciate you making a difference in the community. So thank you for those efforts.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda are our employee recognitions.
All right, if you will join me. So we have some outstanding employees that we would like to recognize. So would Karen Meyer please come up to the podium first? Karen is a music teacher at McKinley Elementary, and she was nominated by Marcia McGill. Karen is an exceptional teacher who brings a love of music into her classroom. She is positive and encouraging with all of her students. She has maintained a positive can-do attitude in circumstances that are not always ideal, such as sharing a classroom. She looks for ways to infuse new technology into her lessons to help motivate and engage students. My favorite thing about Karen is how she consistently sees the good in all of the McKinley Muskies and brings out the best in all of us. So we had some outstanding employees that couldn't be with us this evening, but I am going to share with you what their peers said. So we have Michelle Haller, and Michelle is a para at our Muskie Early Learning Center, and she was nominated by Jenny Ostrom. Michelle has been a para in my room for 1.5 years. She has always gone above and beyond for the classroom and the kids in our preschool room. She comes in early to make sure that the room is ready for that day. She takes down the chairs, sets up the daily work, cleans up the room and centers, and copies or prints anything that may be needed. During the day, she is always focused on the kids by helping them engage in centers, work through social problems, taking data, and she always challenges the kids to try their best. She also stays on some Fridays to help me take down, clean, and change the centers we have in our room so it is ready for the next week. She is a huge asset to our preschool room, and we love Miss Michelle. Also, we have Donnie Horton. Donnie is a bus mechanic at the Transportation Center, and he was nominated by Jeff Hall. Donnie has gone above and beyond his job duties as district mechanic. Donnie was always willing to come in early and drive school bus routes when needed. Donnie's bus knowledge, hard work, and attention to detail helped the Transportation Department achieve an outstanding state inspection with no out-of-service buses. Having no out-of-service buses for a fleet this size is a phenomenal accomplishment. Donnie's work ethic and can-do attitude are a great credit upon himself and the Muscatine School Transportation Department. Next, we have Brian Mathis. He is an ELA teacher at West Middle School, and he was nominated by Jordan Eggers and Kelsey Moschlet. Brian is such a great ELA teacher who always tries to make all of his lessons fun to learn for his students. I wish I had Mr. Mathis as a teacher when I was in middle school. And Mr. Mathis cares very much about his students and making sure that they are learning to the best of their abilities. He is a trustworthy teacher that the students can come to with anything. And last, we have Mr. Luke Torelli, and Luke is a physics teacher at Muscatine High School, and he was nominated by Terry Hoganson, Carrie Hawkins, and Scott Mock. Luke is one of our go-to people. Oftentimes in the world of school scheduling, there are the regular pieces of the puzzle and then the ones that are left over. Someone needs to help make these odd pieces fit, and that is often Luke Torelli. He's shown himself to be a very adaptable in situations and willing to accept change for the betterment of students and the school. He was recently asked to fill in a science need that didn't exactly fit under the heading of optimum for him. Instead of complaining, he put on a smile, asked for support, and said that he'd do his very best. He truly displays a team attitude towards the way he approaches his life and job. I appreciate the coaching that he does alongside of all the day-to-day things he accomplishes with our students. He is definitely worthy of this recognition. Luke has gone above and beyond this year to try and support as many students as possible in passing physics. As an at-risk teacher, he approached the general education physics teachers and asked if he might be able to help their students who struggle most and who may be willing to take physics for the second time. Luke did a lot of legwork, worked out logistics, and then asked counselors to talk with the students and the parents, and then made changes to student schedules who wanted to take him up on the offer. As the first semester progressed, Luke continued to welcome students into his class. He met them where they were and is helping them work towards finishing the first semester successfully. He has been a rock star. So I will make sure that these employees get their awards, and I will accept them on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, and congratulations to all of our January recipients. Next on our agenda is our Citizens Speak portion of our agenda. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the board, now is the time to do that. I would remind everyone, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, that you also state your name and address for the record. And per policy, we are not able to respond to those comments, but happy to hear from anyone that would like to address the board.
Hello, my name is Jill Holler. I think you guys know me. First of all, I just want to say thank you for letting us speak in this portion. I don't enjoy speaking in front of people like this, but I do have a lot of parents who are counting on me to speak, so that's what I'm doing. That's for tonight. In an email I had sent to the board members on January 5th, I asked some questions about the use and potential sale of Central, since that was one of the reasons that the closure was going to occur to save the district money. I did get confirmation today that Central will be used during the 2021 school year for the auditorium, gym, and kitchen facility. And it sounds like the school district wants to keep using Central, the gym, and auditorium indefinitely, and is hoping that a potential buyer will allow them to keep doing so. The email I received also stated the district will need some more time to evaluate the developer's proposals for the best use of Central. We were just wondering, are there proposals as the email implied, and how would that work? I think we're all curious about that, since one of the reasons for the closing of Central was cost, and is that cost going to be eliminated by selling the building? But at least for the upcoming school year, MCSD will have to maintain a large portion of Central, which begs the question, why do we have to move the students out next year? Why not take our time and make a better plan for a new or improved middle school, one which we could be proud of, and ensure that really is the best facility for teachers and students for years to come? For those of parents who have experienced the effects of the consolidation of the elementaries, the overcrowding, having classes in hallways, meetings in boiler rooms, things like that, it's scary to think about Central closing and having our students face that. I got a little emotional last time because I'm concerned about my kids and other kids in the district, especially parents who aren't speaking up but do want to speak up. I noticed there's a frequently asked question page now about Susan Clark Junior High School. And one question that caught my attention asked, why are we merging into one school? The answer states, by having one middle school or junior high, we'll be able to better prepare students emotionally and academically to transition to high school. Additionally, one middle school will promote more collaboration among teachers and lead to the improved articulation of the curriculum. This answer sounds really good, and it was well crafted, but I don't believe that's the answer. The reasons I've heard are that Central's an old building that's too expensive to repair, that we're not getting enough money from the state, which is true, and I will advocate for the state to give us more money, whatever I can do, and that our enrollment is going down. The problem is that parents want transparency. We don't want fluff. We want to know how it's really going. We're sending our kids to school for 8 hours a day, and we want to know that we're getting the right answers. And I just think that if honesty and transparency could be improved, that could build the trust between the administration and the parents, because we do want to work with you and just work together for the best of our kids. So I'm asking if the school board would please, on behalf of the 1,200 people who signed the petition, reopen the discussion of closing Central, at least make it an agenda item for the next meeting. Thank you.
Jill, can you state your address as well so our board secretary has it for the minutes, please?
1314 Oakland Drive.
Thank you. And thank you for your comments tonight. Is there anyone else? Okay. Our next item, we move to our board targets and goals report, and which is part of our superintendent update. And Jerry, I'm going to pass to you because
Great.
I think you have all of these.
Yeah, I do. I do, and I don't. We actually have experts here in the room tonight. We'll start out with a presentation on our pathways work, and one of the things that Muscatine has going for it that I think sometimes people don't completely appreciate is Muscatine Community College. The fact that we have a community college in our community that our students can start working with while they're still in high school all the way through is just an amazing benefit that we have. So we have Gretchen Price, who has been working this year as our coordinator for our pathways work. And we also have Dr. Pickard here, who from MCC. And I know Dr. DeWinder is in the crowd. There we go. So we have a lot of expertise that's going to visit with you tonight. But and I don't want to put any pressure on them, but I really think that this is the beginning of a real game changer for a lot of our kids and great opportunities for our students. So without putting any more pressure on Gretchen, I'll turn it over to you.
So like Jerry said, the initial directive for this project was to ensure the success for all of our students. So we started by looking at the available research, so looking into things like school design, innovative practices, such things like that. And one of the things that we found that was sort of a theme that permeated through all of this was that even though kids understand the need to become prepared, to develop the skills and knowledge necessary to be successful, very few of them were achieving post-secondary education. And so we started to look at the reasons why this was happening, and it really sort of depending on how school districts and different schools thought that the reason for this, it depended on how they addressed it. Sorry, I'm like trying really hard not to ramble.
Gretchen,
Okay.
Can you speak to the microphone?
Oh, I don't want to. I'm kind of nervous, Lisa. This makes me even more nervous. Okay. Anyway, so depending on what schools thought was the reason for students failing, so like if they thought it was student engagement, they typically recommended programming such as like inquiry, learning or project-based learning or things like that. So one of the things within all of these solutions that also was a theme that kind of came up was the need to develop career exploration and multiple pathways for success. So we sort of took that as an initiative. So if we wanted to look really closely at what our, I'm sorry, I even forgot to change the slide. There's the first slide, but you all have the slide, so it should be okay. Anyway, if we wanted to look really closely at what our career pathways and what we were currently offering, so we started to look at our career academies. Maybe, there we go. Okay, so I kind of need to step back and let you know that to me, really, really awesome school reform isn't overhauling the whole system. It's really about refining current practices and improving on what we already do. So again, looking at our career pathways and what are we offering for our students currently for career and college success. So this research helped shape our thinking, and we have proposed a Pathways program, which is what this is going to be about, that will reach from 8th grade up to what most people call grade 16, but basically into the college, and making it so that there's this seamless programming that help kids understand how to be successful in college and career. So obviously we're already doing a little bit of this, so Dr. Picard is going to tell you a little bit about what our current course offerings are for college and also about our enrollment statistics. And then hopefully I'll be able to be a little bit more eloquent when we come back.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm not used to being on this side of the mic. I serve as a school board member in the Mid-Prairie Community School District, and so it's great to meet with fellow board members. I'd like to share a little bit just about some of the things that are going on currently today with MHS students and the number of courses that they're going to be, that they're enrolled in. And so if you're an MHS student and you're interested in taking a college course while you're in high school, you can do this not just at MHS, but any of the number of high schools that we serve, from Clinton Community College, Scott Community College, and Muscatine Community College. There's really 3 ways you can get into a class. And so the 3 ways are a college connection and individual registration program. That's essentially where the high school student is going out on their own or attempting to take a class, probably by themselves while they're in high school. Maybe 1 or 2 other folks would be with them. And again, most of these are typically taken online, so that we have a number of students who are taking classes while in high school and they're taking an online class. Or maybe they get done at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We offer a number of sections starting around 3:30 in the afternoon till 5, and that is designed for high school students who want to get a jump start on their college classes as well. And so they'll come out to the college and sit just with our native students taking a class face-to-face at the campus level. We also have what they call high school concurrent enrollment, and that is typically taught by a qualified high school instructor, and they teach that at the high school. And so we have a number of those that are going on where the high school teacher is a teacher, but it is a college level course. And so they'll use our syllabus, they'll use our learning management system, and they'll use our same textbooks and have the same goals and outcomes for the class. And the student will be sitting for a college class at their local high school, and they'll be taking that for college credit. And a lot of times those are counting for dual credit or concurrent, it's called, and that means they're earning some high school credit while they're earning college credit as well. Typically that could be an elective that counts towards graduation, but it also may be a general requirement that they have for the high school there as well. A lot of these are CTE courses, and that's just because of the qualifications, and that changes a little bit. We also sometimes will have our own full-time faculty members go out to a high school to teach. John DeBeat is one of those folks who is a full-time faculty member at Muscatine Community College, and he travels to L&M once a year to go down and teach a class during the semester. And so the kids at Louisa Muscatine have the chance of having John DeBeat teach in their classroom in the high school, and they have a number of students who are taking that class. And then the final way that a kid could take a class, a student could take a class, is through a career academy. And a career academy, we have them in a number of different fields. We'll talk about those in a little bit, but right now they would come to us in the afternoon, usually from 1 to 3, and it's very focused on something they want to do after high school, or they want to finish an associate's degree, maybe in nursing or welding or agriculture. Culinary arts is another one, and manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, because they have a desire or they have a love for that trade already. They maybe found that love while they were in a foods class in high school, and maybe they took all the foods classes that were offered, and now they want to keep going in that, and that's where we come alongside the high school and offer a career academy. And those are for all 6 school districts that we serve down here in Muscatine. So those are really the 3 ways a kid could take a class. Let me tell you just a little bit about the enrollment. So in 2018 and 2019, all of Eastern Iowa community colleges, which Muscatine Community College is part of, we served 4,820 high school students. That's a lot. And they completed over 35,000 credit hours. What does that look like just for MHS? And so you can see the numbers there. I'm not gonna read them all to you, but we serve a significant number of high school students at MHS as well. And the number of students who are taking the number of credit hours, whether that be online or that CCIR or a career academy, it's significant. And it's really significant because we actually believe that it does help them and helps them get a head start on their college education. And I'll talk a little bit more about the data later. One of the things that we provide the high school principals and the superintendents every year is some analytics on who are those students and what are they taking. And so here's some examples of some of the analytics that we see. And so what we know is that MHS has reported the male and female percentages at the high school. And then what we do is we hope that that is mirrored to those folks who are taking college credit while in high school. And so what you actually see here is there are a few more males taking concurrent enrollment, college enrollment, than females are. And so we can have a conversation around maybe why is that? And that could be that there maybe is more females in our AP sections, and those aren't associated with the college. There could be because we have a number of folks who are coming out in what we call the trades, and that might be why we have more males there. But these are the types of analytics that they get to try to understand who's taking what and how do we get better at what we do. You also see then we took a look at it based on race, and so you can see are we lining up correctly with that. And so we do this and run the analytics because we are trying to have a very representation of what's going on in the high school and who our high school students are with who's taking those college credit. And we have that conversation and try to get better at those things. So you can also see here the number of credit hours and the total tuition that was saved. So a lot of times these are paid for by the high school, and they do not cost the students money. There are, if they want to come out and take a night class on their own, a lot of times they're paying for that on their own. But you can see the savings that is afforded to those high school students prior to going to college. And with the cost of education rising and higher education rising, this is just a great opportunity for someone to get a head start on their education. We also know, too, that the graduation rates, you can see those double if they have a significant amount of college credits. And then also, too, we see that the 30% higher than those without college credit. And so there's some really significant standards that we see and benefits for students to be taking college credits while they're in high school. We see that on the backside when they're going to complete, whether that be an associate's degree or going on to a bachelor's degree. Their completion rates and retention rates go up significantly if they have some college credits while they're in high school, which is also kind of why we continue to take a look at this. I want to talk to you a little bit about a connection scholarship that we have to offer for students who have completed a significant amount of credits. There is a high level scholarship, and then it kind of tiers down level 1, 2, and 3. So if you take college credit while you're in high school, our foundations and our community colleges have offered a number of scholarships for folks once they have completed high school. If you complete 12 credit hours or more while you're in high school and you have a 3.0 GPA or higher in those 12 credit hours, we will half price your tuition if you come to the community college upon graduation for that first year that you're there. So imagine those 12 credits typically paid for by the high school, free to the student. That's about a semester's worth of work. You then come to the community college for a year, and we will half price your tuition for that year. You're really on the hook then for the full freight for one semester of a 2-year degree. And what we're trying to do by this is to make college accessible and affordable for all students. And then you can see it tiers down depending on your GPA and how many college credits that you've earned. We have been doing this for about 4 years, and this scholarship has awarded $1.1 million to our area high school students in savings for them. I also want to talk about the number of folks who come to Muscatine Community College, or one of our Eastern Iowa's community colleges. So you can see that top paragraph. It says that more area students with concurrent enrollment, so those people who started college while they were in high school with Eastern Iowa community colleges, they attend either Clinton Community College, Muscatine Community College, or Scott Community College at a higher rate than all of the universities combined. Most people wouldn't know that. And so we do serve a large number of the students who are in our area. You can see too the number of graduates that we serve. And again, this is from the class of 2016. We have seen at our campus 146 of those graduates. Class of 2017, we have seen 153. I'm not saying all those have completed associate's degree, but they have come and at least taken a credit class at our institution. And so that's a large number of the graduating class at MHS ends up at Muscatine Community College. So we truly are the community's college, and we are serving the high school students in our area, I believe, very, very well. So I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an update on who the students are at your high schools, how many of them are taking college classes while in high school, and then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer questions about that, or do we hold questions till the end? What would you like to do? She says we're going to hold questions till the end.
Okay.
All right. So in thinking again about the goals of the program, I want to spend some time talking specifically about the Career Academy. So this is a fairly new initiative in Iowa and with MCC about 5 or so years, so like less than a decade. We, as Dr. Picard mentioned, we currently offer 5, so here are the 5 that we that they offer and that our students participate in. The numbers here are the Muscatine High School students that are currently enrolled in this year. They're about 34. So in thinking about the different opportunities available to students, we really wanted to expand on this program to figure out how to streamline this and make this a better opportunity for students. In addition, we wanted to make sure that kids really understood how the connection between career and college and school in general worked. And so let's take, for example, an example. Like, let's say I'm a sophomore and I'm really into welding and I take welding in my sophomore year and I get to my senior year and the Welding Academy is an opportunity for me. That's great. I'm taking it. I'm thinking welding is my jam. I'm going to do that forever. About 4 weeks in, I realized maybe welding isn't quite so much for me. The way the academies are set up currently, its students are stuck. They can't easily shift from one program to another. It's a little bit limiting. So we wanted to figure out how to better make this available to more students and give them more options and opportunities to be flexible. We also wanted to make sure that there were enough opportunities that led to both certification and to acceleration in a 2- and 4-year degree. So it's great that a lot of them are tied to college and career technical education, but there's a lot more opportunity out there, and we wanted to make sure that this was something for everybody. So as we thought about developing pathways and developing a new system, we wanted to make sure that we hit these different opportunities for students. And in addition to that, we wanted to make sure that we expanded on the intended audience. We wanted to make sure that this program is really for everybody. It's not for a specific kind of kid. Anybody can use this as an opportunity to become prepared for their future. So we wanted kids, again, to understand, going back to that original data and that original research, how things connected, and to make sure that they have a plan before they leave, to make sure that they're actually successful and continuing their post-secondary education. So again, thinking about options, we wanted this to be not only for the child, or actually the student, an elementary person, that has wanted to be, super career focused, that wanted to be like a veterinarian since they were 6 years old, but also the kid who just wanted to explore the different possibilities out there and make sure that things were really, really easy and seamless for them. So this is where it gets kind of confusing, which is why you have the second packet that says pathways, because I'm going to throw a lot of terminology at you that might be a little confusing. So the first couple of pages are definitions. So what we've done is we've expanded the program to 24 different programs of study within 9 different pathways. So these pathways are tied to career clusters, so such things as health sciences, agriculture, architecture and construction, so on and so forth. And then within each one of these, there are different programs of study or options for students to explore different career and college pathways. Okay? All right, so we're going to give you a really specific example to help you understand this. So we're going to look for specifically at the health sciences, which is offering 5 different programs of study. These range in different levels of attainment, from certification through a 2- and a 4-year degree. We're going to look very specifically at the nursing program of study. So in part of your packet, there are 3 different outlines for the nursing program of study. The reason for this is we're trying to demonstrate how students can explore, for example, the field of health sciences and start coursework, both starting in the high school with classes that would specifically be geared towards health sciences, biology, anatomy, chemistry, so on and so forth. And then starting in their 11th grade year, they could enter an academy and take MCC courses that would then lead to various certifications or a 2- or 4-year degree. So you can kind of see how it all seamlessly fits together. So let's say I want to be a nurse, but I'm not really sure what kind. I can start taking courses, and then I can, maybe I just want to go right away into the workforce. So I get my CNA certification, I can graduate high school, and I can enter into the workforce, get a job, $12 to $18 an hour. Perhaps I want to do a 2-year degree, then I can continue. I've already got a jump start, so it's only actually going to be a year until I can get my 2-year degree from MCC, or I can go directly to Regents College University and pursue a BSN. So it's really supposed to make this very seamless for students. So that was kind of the goal. And I think that's kind of it, yeah. So this is, again, with all school reform, it's about building on successes. So this is the first iteration of this program. Again, we've kind of developed this in order to be grown as student interest continues to kind of grow with this. And this also, as Dr. Winter is going to tell you, also has some exciting changes for MCC.
So as the team started working on the additional pathways, it became clear pretty quickly that the pathways requested are not programs that we currently offer on the campus. And so we worked with an architect to do a planning study to actually address multiple programs, but the priority program is this building that you see here, which would be a new facility to offer career and technical education. The programs that this facility would accommodate include criminal justice, turf and landscape, and that's the greenhouse section, auto tech, and commercial construction. So will we be able to build this building? It's too early to tell right now, but we wanted to show you that we're fully committed to partnering with the schools to add new programs and new facilities to this community. So it's a very important priority for us as well. The success of these programs, of the facility, and the sustainability will rely greatly on Muscatine High School's support in terms of recommending and referring students into these pathways. So for the last year or so, several of the area superintendents, including Dr. Reby, have met on developing a memorandum of understanding that would address some of the potential financing of something like this and the continuation and the sustainability. So in the next several months, I believe that you will see an MOA, and you will have an opportunity to vote on that and discuss what that would look like. But this is a commitment that we are willing to make, and it will require a commitment on your behalf as well to really make it successful and to really make it into a game changer for us.
I just don't know which button to push. Okay. So for
Carrie,
this
I apologize. How did I forget to introduce you in this?
Mary pointed out that I was the B team because I didn't
No.
get introduced, but that's okay. That's okay. It's not my first time.
We saved the best for last. Can I throw that out?
Sure, thanks. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie Hawkins, and I have been a counselor at the high school for 16 years, since 2003. And I'm really excited that I got asked to be part of this, because I think we've seen bits and pieces of it work in the time that I've been at the high school, but we've never had the plan completely put together. And so over the past 6 or 8 years, since a retirement, I've been the person who has signed off on a student who wanted to take a CCIR class, or been someone who's recruited for the career academies, or all things college and career and connecting students to MCC. But at the same time, I had my own class of students. So I had 380 or 400 students that I was responsible for, in addition to discussing these opportunities with other counselors' students. So starting next year, I will be, for lack of better words, I guess, the college and career counselor, but the boots on the ground really for this program. And what it's going to give me an opportunity to do are the things you see listed there. I will really work with the middle schools, or middle school, to start identifying 8th graders who might have a career interest coming into the high school. And we're not asking them to commit to their lifelong dream at that point. But as Gretchen pointed out, in the pathways, there are a lot of opportunities for them to sort of check off prerequisites to certain programs, or if they would happen to start, let's say, a health science pathway and then change their mind completely. A lot of those courses, as you look through there, are things that are going to be gen ed requirements for multiple degree programs. So I think we can get everybody a good start regardless of where they are coming in, but I think those conversations really start in 8th grade. I will facilitate the enrollment and more progress monitoring with the students at MCC. We've discussed me even maybe spending a couple hours a week on MCC's campus. Right now, we have really just starting today, I would have to look at the list to see who stuck with me, but a number of students who started their online classes at MCC today, and sort of one-on-one, I've been checking to make sure that they got their textbook, they were able to log into the class, they were enrolled in the proper class, things like that. And then to be able to monitor and sort of check in with those students who are on MCC's campus, because sometimes they get lost from the parking lot to the student services building and into their classroom. And so just to make sure that's working for them. We'd also like to start coordinating more job experiences with businesses in town. We've talked with several, and we have a couple of new internship opportunities popping up yet this spring. And so that would be exciting for our kids to maybe, after that first year in a career academy, be able to get some paid employment the summer before their senior year to see if that's really what they want to continue to pursue, and work with those, monitoring those work-based learning. And then I would also like to sort of dip my toe into helping students who are maybe first-generation college students, parents who haven't finished their own high school diploma, and get them connected with the HiSET. Because what I found is when a student comes in and decides that they are going to enroll in a 2-year program at MCC, and we start going through some paperwork and the parent realizes this might be their opportunity too, they don't have what they need to get started. So if we could start working with those parents a little bit earlier on and get everybody connected, then I think it puts the whole family in a better position. So I'll sit down before you ask questions.
Actually, that's really kind of it. It's a very bird's eye view. I tried to make notes, which made me really nervous because this is a very complex program with lots of different opportunities for students. So if you have any questions, or I can make anything a little bit more clear for you.
Well, I don't have a question, but I cannot be sitting here without welcoming my president and my dean to our school board meeting. So I'm very happy to see both of you with us tonight, but also millions of thanks for your work, Gretchen and Carrie, also with Dr. Pickard in establishing a program like that that brings a lot of opportunities to Muscatine high school students. So I'm very happy to hear all this news, and thanks for sharing this information with us. Thank you.
I would also like to say thank you from another aspect of it, and that's because I worked for over 32 years for HUD programs and self-sufficiency coordinator. And so some of these things you're talking about with the career and career paths and stuff, the parents is who I worked with. So, oh my gosh, now that you get a chance to work with these kids to get them on a career path, that's excellent information. But I guess a question I'm not quite sure if I caught on enough, and that is like, say, kids that are, I don't know, almost at that dropout rate or something area, because you mentioned it's for every kid, you know, in which to be able to do. Where does that come into play, and how do you pull those kids into this?
So I think that goes back to the research that we were looking at. I mean, that's the problem everybody's trying to solve. And the common theme is early discussion about career and career plans and multiple pathways to success. Students, I think we have discussed this very extensively, both with MCC at the high school and central administration, that if kids don't understand where they're going, they're going to get lost. They're going to get lost in the parking lot to the school. I mean, it's just going to happen. So the idea is that if we start to talk with kids about this early and often, that they will have a pathway. They will see themselves doing something and then stay. In addition, in shifting the academies back a little bit into the 11th grade, it gets them even more completion at MCC so that they don't get lost again for their final year to get that degree or that certification. So it's just the conversation. And I think from what I can tell from the research, that's really been key to all success. So we don't have to change a lot to be successful, which is nice.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question. So I hear it being called pathways, but I see it limited to the sort of degrees and certifications that you can receive. But what about all the students that would fall outside of these pathways for other pathways, like four-year college, know what they want, or behind that as well? Maybe they don't even go this route, but they have a path.
Sure. So this is just a start. So one of the things that I accidentally skipped over was the part about how we determined these exact pathways. So we started by looking at our career cruising data, so our career planning data, and the interest from juniors and their job shadowing. So we looked at that. We looked at available local and regional job opportunities in our area, and then also workforce development nationally. And then we spoke with MCC about their available programming and started with these 9 pathways. So we've talked about transfer programming, so kids who are transferring with like liberal arts or business. There's been some movement at the MCC or the college community and regent level to create transfer degrees that would speak directly to that. So we're starting with these, but there's certainly the opportunity to expand upon this. Also, we don't have any students at play quite yet, so we're not really sure if these are the ones that are really going to be attractive to them. So you might see some that have a lot, like right now we have 12 kids in nursing and 3 in ag. It might vary, and this is just a starting place, and then it will continue to develop. So I think we need to kind of get our feet wet and grow from there.
And it is a pathway beyond the associate's degree. The intent is it's a pathway on through, if you so desire, a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to ask is about students that would want to do something outside of these things. Let's say a lawyer, for example. Will there be job shadowing opportunities? Will they be identified in 8th grade? You know, will it be beyond these pieces that we will call pathways, or is this all that it's going to be, or whatever classes it ends up being?
Yeah, 100%. And that was one of the things that we really just kind of discussed this week, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but the state is trying to develop what they would call a transfer academy or transfer major, so that those gen ed classes from MCC would transfer directly to a regent. The point that I brought up was we have some students who, let's say they finish the first semester of their junior year, they go on a college visit in February, and they decide, I'm going to Iowa State and I'm going to be an ag education major. At that point, to me, that becomes their pathway. So they come back to me with the list of prerequisite courses that they have to take to enter that major. To me, that becomes their pathway. And again, most of those are going to be gen ed, humanities, arts, sciences, those types of things, so that if they change their mind, they can transfer them. But it gets them into those things like pre-law courses a little bit earlier.
Sure, yeah. I was just, in 8th grade, are we talking to all the students about what they're interested in? Or are we only talking to ones we think would fit this program?
So my idea would be, it's not my idea, I stole it from Carlisle, but the idea would be in the spring, maybe early May, to take 2 hours out of the day at the middle schools. The students by that time would have completed their interest inventory and career cruising. They would identify their top 4 majors, and then I'll recruit from the community for people to come in and speak about maybe the top 25 that we get hits on, and then assign the students to a half-an-hour session with each one of those folks to sort of expose them. And then we have a couple of businesses in town who have already said they were willing to host you know, Stanley said they could take marketing and human resources and engineering and design and the whole gamut. So I think we just haven't asked enough people yet, but I think the community will support us in that.
Yeah, if there are parts of this program that could be applied to other careers, then we should do that, that are easy and don't include specific classes and things like that. I think it would help that all students think that they have a pathway, whether it's through these programs or other broader programs.
For sure, yep.
I had just a couple of questions. One is just a clarifying one. Career Cruising is a software program that is it utilized 8th grade on or 7th grade on every year?
6th grade to complete their
Sixth grade on, and that's basically just to see what their interest, it's an interest inventory type of software program, correct?
And it directly connects them to the courses that we offer at the high school, based on what it generates.
Second question was, as we go through these pathways, I know that when I was at the high school, one of the roadblocks that we had was our graduation requirements. So are we going to have to look at our graduation requirements to meet the needs of success in the pathways? Because I'll specifically say that right now we have algebra 2, and geometry. Are we looking at one of those two and then a college level math, or are there other, same thing with the science?
I think, to speak to that, it really depends on the pathway. So for example, the ones that you have in your packet, depending on if you're looking at a CNA certification, there are certain courses that would probably fit better for you and your future prospects than perhaps physics. But if you wanted to, you know, have a BSN and go to a 4-year, you're going to need physics to be in the nursing program. So I do think that we'll have to look at different course requirements, but I think that's very specific to the pathway and a student identifying a pathway.
I guess my question was more along the lines, I don't want to put up any roadblocks because of our grad requirements.
We've had that conversation. I think we have put some roadblocks in for kids, and we're looking at how do we remove those.
Right.
So if you are in a pathway and you're on a progression of things, let's not duplicate things that have to be taken at the high school and the pathway. Let's make sure those get combined so that we can streamline things for kids. And I think we can do that without limiting or changing the rigorousness of the program. And so we are taking a look at those. Whatever we can do to make sure that kids can be legitimately successful in this is going to be really important, because the key to this pathway isn't just that kids get a certification or a degree. This is really a pathway to the middle class. And in our community, we need kids that leave school, either here or MCC, with a clear pathway to the middle class. It's really important for our community. And so we just need to make sure the conversations we've had with Carrie have been really positive. And I can't tell you enough how important it's been that we've had a year that Gretchen was able to do the research and really dedicate herself to this. I can't tell you how important it is that we're going to have Carrie in a position to help these kids. You know, you've got 11th graders taking some college classes. They still need support. They still need a safety net for them. And I can't tell you how important it is that we have a community college administration that is so willing to work with us and make this happen for our kids. So we're going to do everything we absolutely can to make this work for kids. This is not about the institution, it's about kids.
I support that 100%. I would also say, to piggyback off that, Jerry, I think that this is one of the chances for us to give voice and choice to our parents and our kids, and let, in my opinion, public education should be driven by our public and saying this is what we want and we should provide that service. And I think that you guys have done a fantastic job of doing that, of saying what do you want and how do we provide, allowing us to provide that service. So thank you.
That's it?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the work and thank you for the partnership. We're lucky to have our community college in our backyard. Next up, I think we have an update on our special education. Is that correct?
Correct. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Thank Thank you. So we're going to switch gears and talk about special education. So there is a need in hiring special education teachers that hold specifically a Strat 2 endorsement in our district. There is an area that we are having, this is the area that we're having the most difficult time in filling open positions. Our current need is to hire 6 Strat 2 teachers. We continue to have these positions posted as we have for the past 3 years, but we continually come up short. So one way to market our district when hiring Strat 2 teachers would be to offer an incentive. So this would begin ideally fall of 2020-21 school year, and our recommendation would be that all MCSD Strat 2 teachers would receive an additional incentive in the amount of $5,000. So at this time, incentive pay, it would be limited to Strat 2 teachers, as that is our area of current need. So we would not rule out additional SPED incentives in the future, but the need to target our high need areas such as Strat 2s, that's our first priority, and then we would gauge the sustainability and the effectiveness of utilizing an incentive type program in the future would also be looked at. So this idea has been shared with all of our teacher groups, and all acknowledge the shortage within special education teachers in Muscatine and throughout Iowa and beyond. And so full support has been noted by all. So ultimately, we would see how this incentive pay would directly impact our hiring practices, and we would monitor the financial cost, as this will impact the SPED budget as well. So currently, we have 26 Strat 2 teachers. So just by doing the simple math of 26 times $5,000, that would be $130,000. Plus, ideally, we would like to hire 6 more Strat 2 teachers. So that would be an additional $30,000. So you're looking at an overall cost for next year, for 1 year, to be $160,000. So another thing that we kind of looked at is we currently have 31 teachers that have the endorsement of Strat 2, but so if you do the math, that is 5 teachers that are sitting out there that are Muscatine teachers, but they're not serving in the capacity as a special ed teacher. Now, would they think, if I go back into special ed, service as a Strat 2 teacher, roster kids that are, that level 3 weighting, would this maybe be an incentive to consider them returning to special ed? Possibly. So we know we currently have 5 teachers out there with a Strat 2 endorsement, but they're just not serving in that area, whether they're in a gen ed teaching position or another teaching position. So that is something that we can also capitalize on this as well. So, one of the things is you always talked about special ed, and I don't remember which board meeting we talked about, special ed budget. Is it worth going into deficit? Currently, we do not deficit spend in special ed. Most districts do deficit spend and up to millions of dollars. We have not. So, is this something that we would be dipping our toe into when you talk about deficit spending? Possibly. But we also know that we have kiddos coming up that need Strat 2 teachers in the classroom teaching them. So what questions may you have as a board in doing an incentive pay starting out with special ed Strat 2 teachers?
So is this a one year?
Yes, this would be.
It's not a continuing throughout their career.
Right, we would evaluate it at the end of next year. So we would start out starting simple, Strat 2, so it would be for next year.
Yeah, I think realistically though, if it works, you're probably looking at a multi-year incentive.
I think we would need to look at it for several years to see if it does truly market our district. And we know that there are other school districts out there, many school districts, that offer some type of incentive pay, bonus, whatever you call it, in special ed, and specifically to special education teachers.
How does ours compare to those?
We've never offered, that I know of, an incentive.
Size-wise, what did they offer relative to what the 5,000 we're offering? What do they offer?
It can range anywhere from thousands of dollars to more than thousands of dollars. So different districts structure it different ways. We know that we've got some growing districts like Ankeny. They give a very hefty salary because they're even pulling from other school districts that we couldn't even probably begin to match. You're talking like $100,000 for a Strat 2 special ed teacher. So
is 5,000 going to be enough?
In visiting with teachers, I think our staff felt that was hitting a sweet spot.
Have we talked to the 5 that are in our district now, and would they come for this? Would they switch?
No, I have not recruited any.
Becky, you could ask for the listening public, Strat 2.
Strat 2. So if I am a special education teacher, you have choices to be a Strat 1 teacher or a Strat 2. So a Strat 2 is basically called an instructional strategist in the area of either BD or academics. So our kids are leveled certain weightings, and so our kiddos that are a level 2 or a 3, their needs are greater than a level 1. So therefore, a kiddo with a weighting of a level 3 needs to have a teacher that is certified with the endorsement of a Strat 2. So more schooling in the area of cognitive abilities, behavior disorders, things like that. So these kids have a higher weighting because they bring about possibly some higher challenges.
Is it, trying to protect my mom here from things she's told me, because she's is it possible there's a shortage of teachers because of the challenge?
Yes.
Is it possible there's a shortage of teachers because of the institutional regulations and documentation that go into that make it hard for special ed teachers to teach?
Yes and yes. So when you get into special ed, you have this thing called an IEP.
Yep.
It drives a lot of things. There's a lot of data collection, data entry, servicing our kiddos that have challenging behavior or cognitive abilities. It's a very challenging but yet a very rewarding position. There's just not a lot of teachers necessarily going into special ed, not just in our area, but all over. We typically have a Strat 1 and always a Strat 2 position open, and it remains open. And as soon as somebody hires, we interview and things like that. So special ed is getting harder and harder to fill.
And we're seeing more and more students? Or are it just in general, or are the numbers
just
about the
in
same?
general,
We just don't have the...
we've seen possibly an uptick with some of our kiddos that are coming in maybe with with more challenges. We continue, obviously to serve quite a few students currently. Our student count, we have 583 kiddos with IEPs. Now that is what we currently have today, and that is from 3-year-olds to our 12-plus transition. So we have a total of 583 students.
How come we would make this then like an incentive instead of adding to salary? Why would we not just, if we're competing with other districts, if we're saying, I'm making up numbers, we're saying, okay, it's 20,000, said, oh, you get a $5,000 bonus. Why wouldn't we say, you know what, we need to go in and here's 30, and that's what it is?
There's probably a couple reasons.
Okay.
One, I think we want to start in a place to kind of evaluate how it works. But, if we go into a special ed deficit, that is paid for it would come out of your cash reserves, which when you use your cash reserves up, you have to levy for. So it is paid for through property taxes. And so, as you increase the incentive, you increase the amount that's going to be put back on the property tax owner. The other side of that, what I'm recommending, and this again tonight's just informational. The board's, there's no action to be taken tonight. We just wanted to start the conversation. But what I would recommend is that this incentive is not part of the costing of the teacher contract, the teacher settlement, because it is something that we're doing on top of. It is an incentive program. But if you start talking about $1 million in additional salaries, one, you're talking quite a burden on taxpayers. But then it also gets into this, it kind of disrupts the salary schedule more. So I think we'd really need to take a look at that. The other thing, and Becky and I have had quite a bit of conversation about this, is that if this works, we want something that's sustainable. You could do a $20,000 bonus, but you maybe only do that for 1 or 2 years, and then it's gone, and then you're probably back in the same spot you're in. So that's why we're kind of like that sweet spot of a recognition that this is really hard work, that it should maybe come with some additional incentive pay, but something that we could guarantee would be around for a while.
So to clarify, if I'm a new teacher and you're trying to incentivize me to come in, I have a Strat 2, you're saying, Mike, I want you to come in and work in the district, we're going to give you an extra $5,000. I work for the first year. The second year, I wouldn't get the bonus?
No, I think it stays. I think it would need to stay if it works. If at the end of year 1 we don't need 6, we need 7, or something like that. So I think that's why I say the sustainability is really critical for this. And so the other thing that we're hoping is that it's not just hiring folks, but there would be people in the system that would say, I can get a provisional certification, get assigned to that position, and then they'd be eligible for that incentive pay that would help them then pay for the courses that they would take to complete their program. So I think there's different ways that this could maybe help with folks. I wish I could say it was the absolute silver bullet that's going to take care of every problem in this area. Everybody is struggling with special ed, in part because everybody is struggling with a teacher shortage, period. This is at the tip of the iceberg because it's so immediate, but it is an ongoing problem, and it's only going to get worse. So we just wanted to give you an upfront on this, that this is something that we've been visiting with teachers about. It's something that we think is an option to the problem, and it may be worth a try. But we wanted to give you some information tonight, and then we would come back at another board meeting with an action item on what that would look like. But we did want to make sure you understood it. It very well could lead to a special ed deficit,
investments there may pay off in other ways, right?
It very well may. It very well may.
Teachers, staff, parents, everyone, right?
Yeah.
So I would just encourage us to talk to some of those other districts that are doing some of these things and getting a feel for what those best practices are, what they've seen work, what hasn't, mounts, types.
Well, I know one, and my understanding is they had a $10,000 signing bonus, but they could not sustain it.
Sure.
And so
But it sounds like we know some districts that are at least having some better success, right? And so what are they doing to have it and maintain it?
Yeah.
And what can we do for a district our size, but sort of to mirror that or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, and we know one of the districts that we looked at that actually came down and visited with us, they were running a $2 million deficit, but they were also offering salaries that were quite extensive. So, and that is something that was something that, we would have to determine if we,
I think,
because once you start deficit spending, it's very easy to keep that spiral. And sometimes we don't know where some of our kiddos are going to land and what extra supports, they're going to need within special ed. So.
Sure. I would it would be nice, at least for me, to see some of those ones that are doing it in a positive way at the high end and at the, then where will this program land and where do we think it is for us?
So you'd mentioned that you had talked with the teacher groups. Is that the MEA? Is that correct?
We visited with the union, with district advisory. We also had kind of an open meeting in October, invited all special education teachers to that, just to get feedback, and just kind of said, hey, what could we do in our district in the areas of special ed? And there's nothing off the table. Just get to chart paper and write down your ideas. And so we gathered all those ideas, and it was unanimous that some type of an incentive that they would be in favor of, and the range was anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000. And so obviously your special ed teachers, are a big advocate. when Jerry, Mike, and I went out to all of the buildings this fall and kind of did our little on the road speech. This was all mentioned about, how would you guys feel, hard to fill positions. For example, we're thinking of special ed, and all teachers acknowledged, yeah, that's an area, because our teachers have them in their classrooms as well. So yeah, I would say acknowledgement has has been positive from all teacher groups.
Becky, what's the current point total that a special ed teacher carries forward?
Well, in the state of Iowa, there is no point limit. Our special ed delivery service plan likes that sweet spot to be a weighting of 18 to 21. But there's no cap in the state of Iowa.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess my question kind of leads towards, have the teachers been posed with the idea of more pay versus maybe a lighter workload and having more people involved and actually hiring another teacher or two teachers and taking some of the workload that they currently have? Because I think that's probably some of the burnout too, is that there's just so much work that they feel like they're constantly going.
Correct.
I don't know if that's been explored or not.
Oh, absolutely. That's kind of why I'm here tonight, because our Strat 2 teachers, it's very likely that they would have a count of 18, 21, 24, 28, because we need Strat 2 teachers. So we have to have a Strat 2 teacher can roster level 3 kids, a Strat 1 cannot. So if we could hire more Strat 2 teachers, then we could disperse our kiddos and the rosters, and they would be a bit more even and under, a manageable weighting.
And I think we need to do both.
Yeah.
I think we need to have an incentive, and we also want to hire maybe up to 6 more teachers.
Yeah.
I think you're on the right path.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out, what is the better option, to make it workable. But I think you're doing well with that.
Okay. Thank you.
And I know we have to be fiscally responsible, but I'm sitting here
Yes.
thinking about $5,000 at a 25% tax bracket between federal and state.
Yeah.
And then you divide that by 12. Yep. It's about $300 a month.
Yeah.
I think we need to be thoughtful of that. And is there any way we can, so is that gross or net? And how does it make the biggest impact for somebody to do it? I mean, if somebody can do it essentially in that scenario for $300 more a month, that's ultimately what that is. I'm not suggesting it needs to be $1,000 more a month, but I mean, think about that.
All right. Well, thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
Our next update, I believe, fits the picture on the screen about a mural that we're going to hear about within the district.
And we have returning to the school board meeting, a great friend of the district, Mary Wildermuth, and has been really actively involved in the work out at the Early Learning Center with this mural. And it is really a cool addition. And I'm going to, Jessie, are you going to kind of introduce this?
I'm going to start and talk very, very briefly. So I think everybody knows who I am. I'm Jessie Freers, the principal at the Muskie Early Learning Center. So Mary had come to me back in, I think it was September, and asked about Rotary doing a special project for their 100th anniversary, and started to talk about a mural, possibly going up on the wall. And I will be honest, the first time that she mentioned it, I've seen the Rotary wheel, and I was kind of thinking, well, I'm not really quite sure that that will look super cute in our really colorful and beautiful new center. But the more we talked, the more I realized that Rotary was very willing to kind of work with us and make it very meaningful to our center. And so she, a month or so later, introduced me to the artist, Chris, who you'll hear from in just a minute. And he brought his first draft with him to show me, and I instantly fell in love, and I got goosebumps. It was just, his vision was very much what we needed in the center. And Mary's going to talk a little bit about Rotary here in a minute also, but he took the Rotary wheel and their beliefs and really made it into a kid-friendly mural, and it just kind of kept like changing. Every day he would add something different to the wall, and you could just really see that he truly understood how to take that vision that Mary had kind of talked to him about and really make it kid-friendly for our students. So it's a wall that we can now actually use as kids are going out to our playground to play. There's some language on there that kids can talk about or can go through with the teaching staff about, you know, are you being a good friend? Are you being helpful? And so it just looks really amazing, and we've had some talks about doing the other side of the wall. So if you look here, that is going out to our smaller playground, and then there's a wall opposite of that that is exactly the same. So we've had some talks about doing a mural on that wall also, and maybe looking at like a acceptance type of theme with our integrated model that we have at preschool. We have a lot of children of differing abilities, and so really pulling that into the Rotary beliefs as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Mary.
Thank you. So Jesse used a lot of what I was going to say. No, we didn't practice. But last spring, Rotary looked at our 100th anniversary and said, what could we do in the community? And we knew that the Early Learning Center was just opening, or going to open. And so the club basically said, what is it that we could do to partner? So knowing that bullying is an issue, if you think about the Rotary four-way test and all Rotarians, and there's about 70, Jerry's one of them, I'm one of them, Mike used to be, basically at the end of every meeting, these are the things that adults say. They say, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? So to put that in 3-year-old language, here's what we said. Are you telling the truth? Are you being fair? Are you being a good friend? And are you helping everybody? So you'll see in just a minute, we aren't unveiling the mural to you yet, but up in the clouds, you'll see how Chris incorporated all of those sayings. And so the other day, Chris has worked on this all of December, about every morning for a couple hours. And he's had a wonderful time with the kids as they go to the playground or go to the bathroom or go wherever, sneak out of the room, you know, to come see what's going on out here. But the other day, before Christmas, he had just put up the words, are you being a good friend? So the teacher was taking the kids out to the playground, because it's out here, and said, okay, well, let's read these words. So, are you telling the truth? Are you being fair? And Chris said to a T, every 3-year-olds, when it got to, are you being a good friend, they all raised their hand. Yeah, I'm being a good friend. So, you know, I really hope for the Early Learning Center and for Rotary that this may be an idea of anti-bullying, and hopefully our kids will get that message. So you'll see how the Rotary wheel was incorporated, and I'm going to let Chris Anderson narrate the rest. We've got about 4 or 5 slides. So, Chris?
Hello, my name is Chris Anderson. Nice to meet you. So first of all, I want to thank you for the honor of painting for these kids, because it has truly opened up my eyes again to what I'm trying to do with colors and artwork. And, you know, adults, sometimes we don't get it, you know, or else we just kind of forget how impactful it can be. But here I have a slideshow we're going to start with. Basically, this is the wall with white primer on it, and we just started. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the mural I just did downtown on 2nd, but it's of a sunset, and there's a kind of a theme with the clouds. I kind of tried to use that and play with that idea on the wall with this one. And the original proposal involved children, and as you can see, the clouds now have taken shape, and we've used the full range of color value. You know, we got green, blue, and red, and, you know, basically, or excuse me, blue, red, and yellow. Here's the rotary wheel on the big wheel that Mary was talking about. And there's lots of other little things that Jesse was saying that we've added, like the cat and that little logo you see is actually the start of the 100-year Rotary International logo, which it stretches across there. Oh, there you go. And yeah, those the sayings as they're walking out, is it the truth? Are you being fair? Are you being a good friend? It's cool because they all kind of line up on the other side of the wall and they can look at it, and it's just been wonderful. It's been probably the best painting I've ever did. But I think that's it.
So the wall is huge. I mean, it would be bigger than this wall here. And as Chris was there and talking to Jesse about what we were going to put up here, and truly this evolved, the true artist in him looked at the other side. He said, so can I do something to this wall too? So she, of course, said yes. So that's the next project. So thank you very much. And it was Rotary's pleasure to give it to the Early Learning Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, how many hours do you think you put into that?
It was like going to school again, honestly. I'd show up for about 8 o'clock every morning or 8:30. And yeah, until about 10 for a week or two, two or 3 weeks, yeah. Yeah, but it was a joy. I mean, honestly, it's been a while since I've been able to take my time with a project and get input from staff and children along the way. You know, that really helped me build up this into, you know, they use core words when they're speaking with the children, like they'll ask what direction something is or what color or what sound something is. And that's when I started getting the idea to add like birds and butterflies and, you know, things that they can point at and ask, you know, simple questions, stuff like that. So.
Yeah. It's quite the gift. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda, we move to our action items. The following items are considered to be routine by the Board of Education and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the director so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence from the agenda. Those items are minutes, employment recommendations, bills and claims, special education contracts. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda is to approve our summer construction projects.
And
I was going to say, Jerry, I
Ryan
think he
Castle is going to be presenting these tonight. And it's hard to believe how close summer is.
Can't be soon enough.
That's true.
All right, so for this summer, last summer we spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 million on summer projects. With all the construction projects that we have going on currently, we wanted to scale that back fairly significantly this summer. So we're focusing on 2 projects for the summer. So the first project is at Susan Clark Junior High. So that is kind of what was discussed with you guys last year, last meeting, but I wanted to give you guys some more breakdown on that and actually show you what you were hopefully approving. So the first thing is our fine arts section. So that's the stage, redoing the stage and redoing the current wrestling room into the band and orchestra room. So the cost for the fine arts section of Susan Clark is right around $93,000. So $93,350. The second section of our construction at the junior high are classroom updates. That's the separation of the current band room, adding the permanent walls, painting, some electrical work, the sensory room for our special education department. So that comes in at $40,050. General building updates, including the new parking lot out the back, which will allow for our buses to get off of the street, turn around, and then hopefully alleviate some traffic concerns. Cafeteria opening up into the gym, air conditioning in the gym, remodeling some office areas, new signage for the room, so $214,400 for that. And then for the athletics, the new shed, new electrical, revamping the current Project Lead the Way room into a wrestling room, some updates, resurfacing of the gym floor, which is desperately needed, right at $56,000. So for Susan Clark, it's $403,000. Additionally, we're looking at some changes at the board office, in our business office. We've set aside, we'd like to set aside $15,000 for that project, for remodeling the business offices. There are a couple things that might happen. So we are hoping that we come in under budget on some of these things. So if we come in under budget on these things at $418,800, we would like to have some alternates for you guys to consider. The first alternate is a new phone system for Susan Clark Junior High School, which would be approximately $24,000 for a new phone system. The reason for that alternate is, as we increase the number of classrooms at Susan Clark, there could be 1 or 2 classrooms that wouldn't have a phone in there, just based on the current capacity of our current system.
And just the current phone system is antiquated.
Yes.
It's
ancient.
Yes.
You don't like the Yellow Rose of Texas?
No. I think it was done before it was actually a state.
The second alternate is the addition of some bathroom doors at the Early Learning Center. When we redid the Early Learning Center last year, a couple of our bathrooms only have doors into them from one classroom. Teachers would like to see that open up so that you could get to them from the 2 classrooms that share those. So that would be an additional about $16,000. So what we're asking for is the $418,800, and then if we come under that, the ability to do one of these alternates. Any questions?
Ryan, can you clarify that? Did I see the doors going into the cafeteria were 80-foot doors?
80-inch doors. Now,
Maybe
if I screwed up, I will fully. I will,
my eyes
okay.
were bad, but okay.
Yeah,
It says 80. Yeah.
We're gonna have to build on
you
to
know,
put the doors in.
I want to make sure that we have enough access. So I will change that. Thank you for
driving,
thank you for picking up on my air, Mike.
We're driving buses
Yeah, that's
through
part
there?
of the bus
All right.
turnaround.
Yeah.
Through those
All right.
doors.
Do we know who the contractors are?
No, not yet. So we've gotten bids on it. We can't set, until you guys approve us moving forward to this, we can't create contracts with the contractors.
So,
they would be local contractors.
And it wouldn't be, these are separate projects, so they'll be kind of bid out as the capacity of different folks.
The other
So
thing that helps,
it probably won't be one contractor doing
right. The other thing that helps us save money is that we would serve as the general contractor on all these projects. So,
Are you feeling good about that?
actually, I think we're in really good shape to do this. Yeah.
Okay.
and the start date would be the day after?
Actually, if you guys give approval, we might start as soon as March on some of these things.
We do have, we always have some cash flow issues, and so Tom will be working with Ryan and Jeff to make sure that projects are going to be completed at a time when the cash is there to pay for them. Yeah, so, because obviously we have some other projects going on, but the intent is would be done before the start of school year. But we'll time out the start of the projects kind of as cash flow allows.
And my last, well, hopefully my last question on this would, not to be facetious, but who's looking into the code issues? Because we ran into a big surprise with the STEM building. Are there going to be code issues? Has somebody gone through and looked at that stuff?
So we're working with a structural engineer on all of these things. So that the structural engineering code is fine. We're not adding additional square footage onto any building, so there will be no storm shelter thing, no storm shelter issue needed. So
that's my question.
I kind of figured that's where you were going.
We brought all the city people through. We brought all the state people through. We've contacted everybody. So
yeah,
we're not going to have any surprises midsummer saying stop construction, add construction, pay more for something else.
No, we're in good shape.
It's a good question, though.
I'm needing a little bit of clarification, because I see it says remodel office area is 20,000, and then on the next area, it's a business office. So those are two separate.
So if you look, the building updates here, with the $20,000 for the remodel office areas, that is for Susan Clark Junior High. Okay. If you look at, this $15,000 is for the board office, business offices.
Okay.
I apologize, maybe I went a little fast.
A few years ago, we received a donation of some office partition ware from H&I, and it's been really helpful. However, the way the room is designed, noise is a little bit of an issue. And so we're just looking at putting up some stub walls that are a little bit higher, and will create a little more privacy within the areas. We'll still be using a lot of the things that H&I provided, the storage and the desktops and those kind of things, but we're needing a little more substance in the wall area. And these would not be obviously to the ceiling walls. If you've been in the business department, that is a high ceiling, but we will go a little higher than what the current portable, I guess they're kind of portable walls. I'm not sure I have the right terminology, but they're more temporary walls. That's probably a wrong term. I've got an expert here in furniture sitting right here, so, but that's the cost of what we're looking at there.
Okay, thank you.
My last question, probably more that way. Do we know when the power scheduler scenarios are gonna be, when that will be finished? Because I think that will give us a really clear idea that if the facilities that we have, the space that we have, the size of the rooms that we have, because if you're gonna start moving walls around, we wanna make sure that the kids fit into the rooms, right, comfortably, because that's what our.
Oh, you mean at
Susan,
West? Susan Clark?
At Susan Clark.
Yes, yeah.
I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. One of the things they've been working on extensively is we wanted to get that schedule done early. Right. And so we're projecting, Mike, it's probably 90% finished already. It'll probably be about 1 or 2 weeks from now that will be finalized. Okay. But we have a really good idea right now what class sizes will be, but it will be finalized in a couple weeks.
Okay. I know that Chris had said it would be early January right in there. I just think that being able to actually put the section numbers and for us to see the section numbers as opposed to an average, I think that will help us along the way.
I agree, and we've already, some things have come up where it's allowed us to address those and pretty easily worked out, but it was good to know that.
Thank you.
Yep.
One more. What's capping us at the 418,800 right now, and not just adding the other 10% onto the project versus having?
Well, I'm really conscious of, we have a lot of building going on right now. We have the storm shelter, we've got the wing to finish. And so I don't want the district to overextend itself, because, we want to make sure we maintain enough in the PEPL fund to take care of emergencies. So I just felt like if we set this amount, we're fairly confident we'll come in under that. But I just wanted to make sure that we're maintaining appropriate cash flow on that. So as we get closer to this, it may be very clear this won't be a problem. But if for some reason there were a problem, I just don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on what we can provide. So that was the bottom line on that. If we were probably 3 months further down the road in construction, we'd have a better idea of where things may be finishing up, but it's still early.
Sure. Okay.
What other questions do you have for Ryan?
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. So this is a approval item. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll make the motion to approve the summer construction projects.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the summer construction projects as presented. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And the motion carries. Our next item is to approve the request of the School Budget Review Committee, SBRC, for the modified supplemental amount and supplemental aid for the 2021 at-risk dropout prevention program.
It just
Tom,
sings
this
out for
is-
Tom, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is all you, my friend. If you will share with us, and I think some of this is we do this each year.
Yeah, so this is an annual request, and we're actually looking ahead to 2020, 2021, because the SBRC meets in early March maybe, and this just goes on as an approval for all school districts in Iowa that are requesting this. So what we're requesting is the $809,869, and that has a property tax implication of around 61 cents based on last year's property valuation. So that'll be down slightly from this current year we're in, because we were asking for a little over $1 million, but this is what we're statutorily able to request. And this goes towards our at-risk programs. And I believe in your board book, I did put in an estimated budget, thinking ahead again to 2020, 2021, and the number of FTE that our at-risk budget pays for. And this is just one piece of our at-risk allocation. We get an allocation through our aid and levy, and then there's a match that we have to make. So our at-risk budget isn't strictly $809,000. It's actually more than that. But we have to request this specifically in order to get it approved for next year. So
If we don't request it, what happens?
then we don't have an at-risk program, right?
Okay.
Remember the first year you asked me that question, and my jaw dropped.
Right, I do, because you're used to it now, right?
It just rolled right off.
You get used to it.
Yeah. But my point being, it's sort of an important
Right.
piece of business we need to take care of. So, what are the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the SBRC modified supplemental amount request for $809,869. That's for the 2021 school year. That's for the at-risk dropout prevention program. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Our next item is to approve the purchase of 4 buses from school bus sales in the amount of $421,568. And I don't know if this gets to be Ryan or Tom or both.
I think, Ryan is going to be known as the $400,000 man, I think. Every time he steps up the podium, it's about a $400,000.
Maybe it'll be more next time, you never know. So I sent out for bids for school buses to 3 manufacturers in the state of Iowa. I had 2 bids that came back to us. One bid was for $470,000. The other bid was for $421,000. This bus enables us to add 4 more propane buses to our fleet. Same manufacturer that we currently have all of our buses made, which is helpful for our mechanics to have. As well as the purchase of these 4 buses will go directly towards the fulfilling of our Volkswagen grant that we were granted, or that we had earned earlier this year. So the purchase of these 4 buses will then be reimbursed, pending proper paperwork and all that stuff, by VW, and to the tune of $105,000. So we'll get $105,000 back off the purchase of these. To use for other buses, right, Tom?
That's right.
And there's some time sensitivity to the VW grant.
Correct. I have a 2-year window for the VW grant, which obviously some of that's already expired. I was hoping to be able to use the purchase of our last 4 buses towards this, but with the delay of the grant being awarded, that did not allow us to do that. So that kind of now pushes us to, we're at the point where if we don't order soon, we will lose that $105,000. So.
And Ryan, these would not be delivered probably before October?
So the great thing with our suppliers, they're willing to work with us. We could get them this summer if we wanted, but I've also talked to them. We will delay the purchase of these buses until October or November, so that our cash flow, some of our cash flow issues are alleviated, and that still puts us in that window of being able to fulfill the grant.
And when we talk about cash flow issues, because we've said that a couple of times tonight, and that sounds a little scary if you're not.
So it's been a few months since we brought you the capital projects cash flow, because I have shared that a couple times. But that's the cash flow that we're talking about because of the timing of when we receive PEPL, which is property tax, twice a year. We get monthly save revenue every month. So we also have projects that we budget for every year beyond the one that you approved tonight, the buses. There's other things that we pay out of capital projects. So by the timing of these buses, typically we show it in our cash flow to happen in probably August. But we typically don't get the buses until later on in the fall, and that's when we're just gonna get them this time. We're not gonna, that way on the cash flow we can show that it's not gonna come out until November, so.
And we are hoping to always keep $1 million in that fund, or close to $1 million. And that's why when we saw cash flow, it's not like we're down to $7 or anything like that. But you know, if a boiler goes out, if there's some ridiculous, expense, I want to make sure there's money in there to take care of that. So that's where some of that cash flow is. We just want to make sure we maintain that insurance dollars in there. So.
And in the February work session, I'll be sharing that cash flow again along with other budget stuff for next fiscal year.
Okay.
So.
Good.
Sorry to scare you, Tammy.
No, we've said it several times tonight. I'm like, let's just make sure for our public that we're clear on what we're talking about. The 4 buses that you'll add.
Yes.
Will we be taking any out?
Yes, absolutely. So, as a part of the grant, the 4 buses that they replace need to be scrapped. So there's some things that I need to do for the federal government to make that happen: cutting frame rails, drilling a hole in the engine blocks, those kind of things. These new buses will also include our first seatbelt buses, as well as an additional stop arm on the back and a stop arm camera on the sides to help with some of the safety of our students.
Any storage underneath?
No storage underneath, Mike. We can't do it with our roads. Clearance issues.
No basements on the buses.
We can talk.
And I don't know if we've talked about the seatbelt issue, but at some point when those actually get closer to service,
I have a couple policies for you guys to go through.
The board's going to have to look at some policy issues with that.
So, Ryan, I want to ask you about like the ones that we got last year. So the one we got last year without seat belts?
That is correct. The seatbelt policy was enacted. Anything built after October 2nd of the 2019 by Iowa law has to have seatbelts. Iowa law does not require that you use seatbelts, but the buses must have them.
Okay.
So,
what's the life of a bus?
We have our oldest bus is a 2002 right now. I would like to get us to the point where we don't have a bus that's older than 11 years. State inspector would like us to have 10 years. 10 to 11 years is probably a fair amount.
And the propane buses have been significantly less expensive to maintain.
It's significantly less expensive to maintain and run.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, this weekend we pulled 8 buses into our shop. We don't have to do that with propane buses. We don't have to worry about them gelling up. We don't have to run them at night. I don't have to bring in drivers and mechanics, from midnight to 6 a.m. running buses. So
they warm up in minutes.
Yes, absolutely. And they're quieter. They're almost as efficient. Way less greenhouse emissions. So it's been nice for us. These will also have some additional crumple zones that are required. So the buses are getting safer and they're becoming more efficient as we get along in the process.
So the agenda item is a request for 4. Again, the amount is $421,568. What are the wishes of the board?
I move to approve the purchase of 4 buses from school bus sales in the amount of $421,568.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded to purchase the 4 school buses in the amount of $421,568 from school bus sales. Is there any other discussion?
I just had one point. Could we put in the agenda item that it's to replace 4 buses versus just purchase 4 new, or can we not? Because I think it would help anybody reading in or looking at it that this is...
We're not just adding to the fleet.
Yeah, we're not just adding 4 more buses.
Certainly, yeah. And 4 will be...
4 will be scrapped.
Will be
Yeah, as
scrapped,
part of the
so...
gr-
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I can put it as part of the discussion.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah, good point.
And we can include the grant information in that as well. That would be good.
That would be nice, because that's 25% of this, or
Yeah.
almost 25% that's being paid for.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Ryan. You're moving far away as if you're done with us, huh? Our next agenda item is a lease agreement between Flickinger Learning Center and the school district for the Restoring Hope program for second semester of 2019-2020, and it's in the amount of $500 a month.
Yeah, a month or so ago, we had a report on the Restorative Hope program, which is for those children that are really struggling, young children really struggling. We really felt like it's best if they would not be in a school building, but we want them close to resources. So Flickinger has agreed that we could use their facility through the end of this school year at a $500 lease, and that's a really good thing it's a good thing for us, and I think it's a good thing for them as well. And I believe that goes to the end of May. So.
Do we have an idea on how many children that serves?
Well, and actually, we're right now they're getting doing the work to getting referrals. I think what 6 to 8 will be the initial first grouping, and next month the plan is to have the folks come in and give a report. But we wanted it up and running before they came in.
Sure.
So we have. No pun intended, great hope for this. We have people that are so strongly committed to making a difference for kids and for these young kids that I think it's going to I think it could be a difference maker for some of our kids.
Good. All right, what are the wishes of the board on the lease agreement?
I move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the lease agreement between Flickinger Learning Center and the school district for the Restoring Hope program for second semester at $500 a month. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda is to approve our early retirees for FY 2020.
Yeah, I believe there are 12 on the list, and this has been something that has been very useful for us as we've had declining enrollment. It allows us to bring our staff to appropriate size without having to riff, and I think that's really important. I think it's important to show our commitment to our teaching staff. As the year continues to wind down, we'll be able to identify positions that we may not need to fill. We may be able to consolidate some positions. So this has always been, between both certified and classified folks, a way to give an incentive for people to take an early retirement, which in turn then helps us to right-size our staff.
And that list was in your board book. What are the wishes of the board of approving the early retirees?
I'll make the motion to approve the early retirements.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the early retiree list for 2020 as presented. Is there any discussion?
I'll ask my normal question. How many did we expect, and how did it compare?
I always expect there to be more. But the other side of this is our staff is getting younger also. So I think it's probably about in the range we've been getting. I think it was an even split, 6 and 6, 6 certified, 6 classified. So.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
I would thank all of those that are in the board book for their years of service. As somebody who was really grew up in the community, there are fewer and fewer names as I get older that I recognize, but many that have touched my own family or that I know personally and have dedicated a lot of their lives to the district. So we thank them for their service. If there's no other discussion, the motion on the table is to approve. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. That takes us to our discussion and information section of our agenda. And Tom, that takes us to our November financials.
Yep. So included in your board book then would be the treasurer's report for November as a comparison to November of 2018. I don't have any comments unless you have any questions on anything, and the same with the monthly board report for focusing on the general fund. The focus is the percent of revenue and expenditures this point at the end of November compared to November of last year, and we're still everything looks on budget so far. So if there's no other questions, that's my report.
Okay. Any questions for Tom? All right. So that takes us to our announcements for the evening. I will go through what is on your board agenda. The first item is tomorrow, January 14th, the Riverbend Mobile Food Bank will be at the Administrative Center from 4:30 to 6. I somehow have missed the importance of this program and had the opportunity to help last month, and it was a afternoon changing event. So if you've not had the opportunity to go and volunteer, I would highly encourage you. I'm going to guess that we could still put more hands to work tomorrow if people show up. The tasks are not tough. I started off it was the biggest pallet of potatoes I've ever seen, and we broke the pallets apart and we put them in individual bags, and then got to serve families as they came in to shop for what was there. So it was amazing, and it is all donated items, anonymously donated to our community. So it's incredibly moving. So that's tomorrow. It happens each month. So if you can volunteer, they would love to have you. 4:30 to 6 is the time frame for that to happen.
And Tammy, if I may, that the intent of that, those are families that have kids in our schools.
Yeah, and all they do is they register when they get there, but there is they don't need to, there's not papers they need to bring, there's not proof of anything, they just show up. And it was, again, incredibly humbling experience. So I would invite anybody if you have an hour to spare, stop by tomorrow. It's amazing.
Tammy, may I ask a question? Lisa, what time do you want any of us there? Like, I know it's 4:30 to 6. Do you want us before?
They ask for help at 4 for unloading of the items, if you
Okay.
can. If not, 4:30 is fine.
Okay. Count on me, please, tomorrow.
I'll add your name. Thanks, John.
John, I learned last month when I went at 4 o'clock, there was nowhere to park. Nowhere. So if you drive all the way back by the backside of the building by the trash dumpster, you can make yourself a spot.
It's okay.
So I learned that was back there. So January 15th, which takes us to Wednesday, there will be a stadium fundraising kickoff meeting that will begin at 7:30 a.m. And it's in the Van Heck Center. Mike, I'm looking at you. Is that the correct?
That's correct.
Location? Okay. January 20th, that takes us to next Monday. That is a no school day, teacher in service day. And then we move to January 21 and 22 will be the superintendent finalist interviews. This afternoon, there was a press release that was sent out. There are 3 finalists. And so over the course of those 2 days, the 3 candidates will be interviewed. And hopefully a decision will be made by the board on January 22nd. And then that takes us into February, and our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be February 10th. We'll be here at City Hall at 7 p.m. Does anyone else have any announcements that they would like to add or include? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, everyone.